I'm sorry. I misnamed your bot. What is your bot's name? Hey, say the right name.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. The bot's name, she's Rosie. In
Rosie.
The project. You said it well.
Oh.
Serenata de Amor. Yeah.
Serenata de... I got to work on that. How are you doing today?
So far, so good.
Good. I love talking with you, so I'm sad we only have 15 minutes, but
Okay.
can you please start by telling our crowd here and online just quickly, who you are and what you do?
Okay, so long story short, as I was introduced, I'm a sociologist, and I've been coding since I was a kid, so it's been a while now. And lately, I would say in the last almost 10 years, I've been trying to do both things together, which means looking through the words with the lens of a sociologist on, so trying to understand what's going on out there in terms of power, in terms of people, institutions. But my main tool to do something in the words being coding, has been writing software.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense. And my next question is very basic, but you are an expert in civic technology. So I'm hoping you can explain to us sort of what that is and why everyone should be thinking about it as technologists.
Okay. Yeah, I think when we say civic, I don't know exactly what goes together. Like, what your mind is thinking about when you say the word civic. Even if you go to the academia, to the scholars, they can write like tons of books about it, and they will disagree. But in my mind, it's a very simple thing about being political and being yourself and fighting for your values. And of course, you can do it in different ways. You can like write up ads in the newspapers. You can have your own, maybe your followers online, etc. Or you can use technology to make some statements. And I'm the one using technology to put out in the world things I believe in, to have my voice in the world, in values, things that usually would go in an op-ed thing. Maybe I can write software about it.
Okay, cool. So what kind of things, can you tell us about Rosie just quickly? What kind of things you've put in the world to get into the civic space?
Sure, yeah. Rosie, she's a proof of concept. In Brazil, we have a lot of open data from the government. And most of this data is not easy, or it doesn't really worth it to look at, because it's like small expenses from Congress people, like meals, for example, tax cab rides, etc. So if you think about the salary of someone who would be like checking line per line of a massive, like a 3 million rows spreadsheet or something, it wouldn't pay off. It would be like too much cost of a human doing this, for a human to do this, sorry. And then we decided it would be nice to have a bot to do this. And that's basically Rosie. She was an artificial intelligence bit that would understand parts of Brazilian laws regarding this kind of money, goes through massive amounts of open data, and flag what was suspicious. And when she flags, she tweets and asks Brazilians, like, hey, can you take a look at this? I think this is suspicious. I need help to, like, maybe I'm wrong, like, maybe I'm right. So she's bringing awareness of those of public money, actually.
Okay.
How we are being using this in the Brazilian government.
And keeping people accountable. So a little bot with a lot of power. Where do you see opportunities for the technologists and the students and the people listening today to sort of meet at the intersection of whatever they're studying with politics? How can young people sort of mobilize their tools in spaces like the government to make a difference?
Yeah. Actually, technology is pretty powerful in terms of politics. For those who were here before on the previous talk, Don Scott showed a book about capitalism, the age of surveillance, and most of it is powered by technology itself. One kind of technology that was also criticized in that talk that is pretty much centralized. So when you think about what's going on online, is that things that we might assume they are pretty neutral, they are like just mathematical models and stuff, they are getting into our lives, into our cultures and values, so they are not neutral anymore. we are using algorithms to express our views in the world. So I do believe that every tech project has a potential to be political, and actually it's more than the potential. You have to choose to see it or not. If you don't see it, it will still be political, because when someone takes some bot or some software and use it, it starts to be political. It's impossible to disentangle then.
I think maybe, people get nervous about mixing, business and politics sometimes, just because, politics is such it's everywhere, but, there is, especially when you're starting out your career, there is maybe a little bit of a hesitation, but you're sort of advocating that people should take what they know and apply it. And I'm curious, why they should take it over the line and get a little bit uncomfortable or like play in the political space. Why is it important to do this?
I think it's important because it's unavoidable. So it's gonna happen, like it or not. It's gonna happen. So there are like interesting research being written, and this is not new. Like, if you look to the electricity industry in the U.S., so we were talking about Nikola Tesla and Bell and etc. It was already there, a struggle of power going on, like which model would survive, the centralized production we have today or the decentralized one. And it wasn't a technical decision that happened. It was how those two kind of sides of the thing were connected to people in power. So even if you don't take a shot, somebody will, and this makes technology political.
And it may as well be you, I guess.
Yeah. So if someone's is gonna take the shot, why not you? That's you summarized it pretty well.
That's cool. There's a lot of young people, who are listening, who are here, and I'm curious, what advice you have for them. You took sort of an atypical path where you are. What kind of advice do you wish someone had told you when you were like merging all of these disciplines and sort of making a career for yourself when you were starting this journey? What advice would have been very helpful?
Well, I think it would be like to be very hands-on and try things, and because sometimes we think too much maybe, and sometimes have a lot of ideas and we don't really ponder on them, or maybe we just discard, oh no, I'm not that bright, or I'm not that audacious or whatever. So I would say like be hands-on, like try something, show to your friends, tweet about it, like we're just now listening about the power of like showing yourself on social media. So I think it's the combination of both, being hands-on so you have something to show, have something to talk about, some experience to share, and go out there and share and talk about it.
And you started in a very interesting space. You started in swimming, of all things. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, I think my very first public website was me as a high school swimmer. And we were talking about like late 90s. It was really difficult for us to know how the next competition is going to be. We knew like people going to Olympic Games, how fast they were swimming, but what about the guy I'm competing with in, I don't know, the next weekend? So I started with a friend in my town, local swimming news website, and I think it was really cool to see technology helping me in a very tangible way. Like it was the kind of news I would like to see in the world, but it wasn't there, and then we started to creating it.
Okay, so you dove right in. Har. Dove right into it. I had to. I'm sorry, that was a terrible joke. By the way, everyone, the Slido's open if you want to ask better questions than me. Feel free and go ahead. When we were talking previously, you mentioned something, I believe it's in your PhD thesis. You were talking about the bright side and the dark side of tech and sort of where you felt you sat between these two poles. And I'm hoping you could go a little bit more into that, because I think, it is a preoccupation of a lot of people who are in the technology space about, how to use it to do good and, do no evil. And there's a lot of sort of darker things that are existing in this space. And where do you where do you land in there, and how do you stay motivated about the work and about the space?
Yeah, I think maybe if I bring an example, it would be more tangible. So like, you're right, it was on my PhD, I was studying the political impacts of crowdfunding on society. And in a nutshell, there is a lot of potential in crowdfunding. Again, just in the stage here, we had some examples, but like it enables new things to happen, things that wouldn't be allowed in the mainstream. Things like the most common example in crowdfunding is like music. Like, so people, the big labels don't want to make an album for, they can now have their album if they go on Kickstarter or any of those big platforms out there. So there's a lot of new things. You can kind of harvest your influence on social media and transform it into tangible projects. But at the same time, there are a lot of other things going on. So if you think if you think about the power of the old labels in the recording industry, now this kind of crowdfunding platforms, they have the same label. I have to use Kickstarter as an example. So it's another way to have someone in the middle regulating the marketing, regulating what can exist in the world and what cannot. If you depend on social media, which was my second example, you are somehow still tied to filter bubbles and like this kind of echo chamber created by most of the social media. Even if you don't have too much interference of algorithms, like Facebook, for example, it's just a chronological timeline.
Right.
You still decide who to follow and probably can filter who follows you, etc.
I like that you still called it Facebook. I think we're supposed to jump on board
right?
to Meta, but I like how I haven't heard a single person do that today. That's so funny. So your vision in the future is that we're going to use, our brains and our power, for good, and to move the needle in the best way possible towards, using tech for good. I guess my last question, or I guess one of my questions about that is, just how you can go about sort of everybody in their own, with their own background, how they can contribute, even though that there are these like giants that are already in the space. Mm-hmm. Where do you make your mark? Is it about making a bot? Is it about doing your own websites? Like, how can you move the needle in the right way?
I think number one would be awareness. So try to understand what's going on. So why do we have this service for free? Again, social media is the social network, is the most common example. So like being aware of how those things work, how you are making Mark Zuckerberg richer is a good question to start with. And second, if you have some idea, just try not to hold back and try it out and like be hands-on. Even if you don't code, there's a lot of tools that you can make some bots or some AI, play around with AI, even if you are not a data scientist or a computer programmer. Just try it out, see how it goes. You understand better how technology is more than you think the foundation of most of the relationships right now in society, cool. Including power relationships.
Right on. So like critical thinking, apply yourself, just do it. I guess that's my big takeaway from this. Well, I really appreciate you coming to Campus Party Canada to talk to me. It's nice to meet you in real life. Where can people find you and follow you and stay in touch with you if they want to learn more about your work?
Okay, yeah. So first, thanks for Campus Party. I think this is my fourth or fifth, and of course the first one in Canada, which is great. Well, so we can continue this conversation on the social networks that I've been criticizing. So my nickname is Cuducos, Cuducos, and probably you can find me in all of them. If you can find me, probably I don't use that one, so just jump to the next one. I'll be there, probably.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Eduardo, for being here. It's really nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
Give it up. So, right now, I am going to invite the